Hi everyone, welcome to the Crafty Pixie channel where we do sewing projects and subscription boxes. I am B. Whether you are new or old to this channel, thank you so much for stopping by. It is great to have you. How's everybody doing? I hope that everyone is well in their own little part of the world. I see you and you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for everything. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell so you know when I upload every week. Leave a comment in the comment section, especially if you are a new subscriber. I would love to hear from you. And give the video a thumbs up. Okay, in today's video, we are making this adorable, project bag. It's great. I'll have the link in the description box below for you where you can get it and everything like that. It's great. This is there's 4 sizes. There's a small, there's a medium, there's a large, and then there's a jumbo. So this is the large. It's really easy. It takes absolutely barely any material at all to do. There is some binding. The binding is not too bad. I'm not crazy about binding either, but it's not that bad. But you've got a vinyl pocket in here and lots of space to fit cross stitch embroidery. If you're working on a quilting project, anything like that, this is great for it. I used a fat quarter for the background that you see here, and then some, not even half a yard of fabric for everything else. So it's really a great project for you to try out and everything. So like I said, we're gonna have it in the description box below so you can take a look at it if you want. Also, before we get to the tutorial and everything like that, I found a sewing advent calendar on Amazon. I'll have a link in the description box below if I can find it for you. And this is my first advent calendar ever. We usually get them for the kids, but I've never gotten one, and I saw the sewing one and I'm like, ooh, let's try this. So let me know in the comment section down below if you want to know what's inside as I'm opening it. I'm not going to show you every single day, but every time I do an intro or anything like that, I can pop in, hey, I got this and this if you want. I just thought this was really interesting find. I've never seen anything for sewing, so I wanted to share that with you guys. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get some materials and escape for a while. All right, for this project, this is all of the pattern pieces that you're going to need. So you're going to need your main backing and your contrasting fabric. You're going to need your clear vinyl, your zipper pull, and then the rest of the pieces, so the zipper top and bottom, and then you got your accent pieces. And you're also going to need either bias tape or make your own bias. This is the hardware that you'll need. Of course, you're going to need your zipper. Mine is definitely longer than it needs to be. You can cut it down. You're going to need clips or pins, a ruler, a marking tool that is air erasing or chalk pen, something like that. You may need a rotary cutter, or you can definitely use your scissors. So let's get started. First thing is first, we are going to attach your contrasting fabric, which you're going to see through the vinyl, and your backing, and we're going to attach them together. Now, I don't have any foam or soft and stable like the pattern says, so I just went ahead and used some fusible fleece because I am using canvas. And then I also have a piece of SF101 on the back of this before I put the fusible fleece on. So basically you're going to take your backing wrong side up and you're gonna lay your contrasting fabric wrong side down, and you're going to align them together. Like so. It is okay if they're not 100% aligned. You will be cutting this down when you're done. And you're just gonna go ahead and clip around the edges. Just so that stays in place while you're at the sewing machine. Now you're going to take this and you're going to make your own quilting design, you know, whatever you want. I wouldn't do anything that's going to take away from your pattern or anything. So I'm simply just going to make a line right between each of the rows of the kitty cat faces. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I would use probably 2.5 to a 3 millimeter stitch length, and you don't have to worry about back stitching at the beginning or at the end, because again we're going to cut this all down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. With that stitching done, I went ahead and per the directions for the size that you're making, I went ahead and marked what the final cut down was going to be, and then basically you just cut it down to the correct size. Once you've done that, you're going to take it over to the sewing machine and you're just going to baste all 4 sides at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Basting is about a 5 millimeter stitch length. So I'm going to cut this down and baste it, and I'll be right back. With that cut down and basted into place, this is what you're going to be looking at. Now again, you can have any kind of, I guess, quilting you want on here, whatever makes it easier for you, but this is nice and sturdy now, even with the fusible fleece, because I have the canvas on here. So you can set that aside. And next, what you're going to grab is you're going to grab your handle. Mine is also made out of the canvas. And basically you're going to fold this in half, like so. You can always take this over to the sewing machine and do this, of course. And then you're going to fold the edges in to meet that first folded line that you made. So your raw edge on the long side is inside. And make sure when you're looking at this pattern, you are looking at the correct size for your size project that you're making. There's 4 different sizes here. So just bear that in mind. And then you're going to fold the other side right to meet it. Just like so. Just like that, and then you're going to take it and fold it in half. So you have the raw edges completely encased, and then you're going to sew all 4 sides at a top stitch, so 3 millimeter stitch length, at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I am going to clip this so it doesn't move too much on me while I'm doing this. I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine, sew it, and I'll be right back. With your handle top stitched, I also pressed it so it sealed the seams. You can go ahead and put that to the side. Next, you're going to prepare your zipper pull. Now this is very hard to do, so I didn't do it on camera, but you're basically going to fold this the exact same way that you folded the handle, and then you're going to take it over to the sewing machine, and with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, you're just going to stitch right across the folded, where the 2 folded ends meet into place, just so that you seal in the raw edges. So I'm going to go do that, press it, and I'll be right back. Next, we're going to attach our bottom border to our vinyl. At this point, I do suggest switching to a Teflon foot or a silicone foot or a walking foot, something, just so that this vinyl doesn't stick too much to the bed of your machine. I also do suggest putting tissue paper or something underneath, just so that it slides smoother across to your bed. But what we're going to do is you're going to determine which side you want up and which side you want down. And with the right side of the fabric laying down against your vinyl, we're going to align one long edge and clip into place. And then you're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and with with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, we are just going to stitch across where we have clipped. Make sure to back stitch at the beginning and at the end, and you're going to use a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. I'm going to do that, and I will be right back. With that done, now we're going to attach the lining. So we're going to flip this so that the vinyl is facing up, and we're going to place the lining piece down, matching the raw edges. So you're going to have it wrong side facing down against the vinyl. And we're going to clip into place. This is sandwiching the vinyl between the two pieces of fabric, like so. Now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, you're going to stitch right across the clipped edge. Back stitch really well at the beginning and at the end. I'm going to do that. I'll be right back. With that done, we are now going to take the lining and we're going to pull it down, and we're going to press it. Now you can finger press this if you want, or you can take this over to the sewing machine. Just make sure you don't get the iron on the vinyl. And we're going to press this down, and we're going to top stitch at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way across the lining only. So you're going to catch the seam and the lining together. This is going to help keep everything even on the inside of the bag in the end. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. With that done, now we're going to flip this over to the right side, and we're going to finger press the front panel down. You can iron this down as well. Just make sure you cover the vinyl so you don't hit it with the iron. And we're going to clip so that they are matching evenly along the side and the bottom. Make sure they're even. If you need to trim it up because one is a bit longer than the other and you can't make it attach correctly, then that's fine. Just like that. Okay, you can, really work that down so that's nice and even there for you. Now here we're going to top stitch a 1/4 of an inch across the top, and then we're going to base down the sides across the bottom and up the other side. Okay, so make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end of your top stitch, but do not back stitch your basting. So I'm going to go do that, and I will be right back. Next, you're going to need your exterior strip A, or zipper strip A, and then your interior zipper strip B. So your exterior and your lining, okay? And then we're going to align right sides together. Since mine's a solid color and the same on both sides, it doesn't really matter, but just pay attention to yours. You're going to align it with the raw edge of the vinyl. Right across the top. We're kind of mimicking what we did down at the base. All right, so then we're going to take this over to the sewing machine. Make sure you're aligned. Take this over to the sewing machine, and with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, we're going to stitch only across the top that we clipped. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and at the end. I'm going to do that. I'll be right back. All right, with that done, now we're going to mimic like we did on the other side. So wrong side of the fabric up, right side of the vinyl down, or not the vinyl, I'm sorry, the lining down. Going to clip the raw edges together just like before. Make sure your raw edges are aligned. We're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew this down along the clipped edge at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and at the end. Next, we are going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on the lining side only. So we're going to push it up. You can press this with your fingers, you can press it with an iron, just be careful of the vinyl. And like I said, we're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on the lining only. For this next part, it does not say to top stitch the exterior panel of the piece that we just sewed for the zipper, but I feel like since we already top stitched down here that we should top stitch up here. So I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance right across the top where the vinyl and the lining or fabric meet. I'm going to backstitch at the beginning and at the end, and then I'm going to baste along the top edge where it's clipped, because both the lining and the exterior are together. So I'm going to top stitch that at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance right across the top there. With the top stitching and basting done to the top, we're going to put this aside for a minute. And we're going to take our top pieces, so the zipper A piece and zipper A lining, and we're going to align them together so that the long sides are meeting, like so. And we're going to clip them into place. Make sure they stay aligned when you do this. Now you're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and the line that we clipped, you're going to sew at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way across the top. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and at the end. I'll be right back. Okay, so now that you have your exterior and your lining for the top of the zipper sewn together with wrong sides together, we're going to take our zipper, and my zipper is much longer, and that is fine. So with it closed and the zipper pull on the left, we're going to lay our panel, I guess you could say, wrong side down, so exterior down. Sorry, exterior down. Right, like this. Make sure that you don't have any of your metal pieces or anything in the way. And you're going to align the raw edge, and you're going to clip it into place. This is going to give you a finished edge so that there's no raw edges on the inside of the bag when you're done. And we're just going to clip it. Now you're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, so a 1/4 of an inch away from this raw edge here, you're going to sew with 2.5 millimeter stitch length. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and at the end. All right, I'm going to do that, and I will be right back. All right, with that sewn, this is what you should be looking at. I went ahead and pushed both the lining and the exterior fabric out away from the zipper teeth. So you've got that. Now what we're going to do is we are going to top stitch right along the edge of the zipper tape, so that you are encasing the raw edges of your fabric in it, in the top stitching, so you don't have any fraying or loose edges or anything like that when you're done. So it's about 1/8 of an inch. You're just going to top stitch right along there at a 3 millimeter stitch length. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. With that done, we are now going to lay our panel right side down along the zipper on the other side, just like we did. We're going to align the two zipper panels together along the side, and we're going to align the zipper tape along the top raw edge, like so. I don't think I'll ever be good at zippers, but alright, so make sure everything is aligned. This is going to straighten your zipper out for you. Alright, and we're going to do the exact same thing we did on the top side. So we're going to stitch at a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance right across the top, so 1/4 inch from your outside edge. Back stitch really well at the beginning and at the end. Then you are going to fold this over, press it, and top stitch to seal the raw edge here in. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of that, and I will be right back. With that all done, this is your panel for the front. Now we're going to attach the two panels together. So with the back panel right side up and your top panel right side down, we're going to align everything. Make sure everything is nice and even. like so. If it's a little bit off, it's okay. If you need to make any adjustments or anything, you can definitely do that before you put the binding on. Just like that. And then you're going to come around the sides. Now, if your back panel is a little bit longer than your front panel, it is perfectly fine. You can trim it up after we baste everything down. Looks like our sides are good. All right, just like that. So now you've got the top and the bottom together. Now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and we're going to baste your two pieces together. Now before you do this, make sure your zipper pull is inside the bag. Okay? You don't want to baste this down and then your zipper pull is on the outside. That's completely defeats the purpose. Okay, so we're just going to go all four corners, base stitch at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, just so that both pieces are together for when we put our binding on. So I'm going to go do that and I will be right back. All right, with the two panels basted together, this is what you're looking at. This is so cute. I can't wait to use this. Oh, and it's nice and sturdy because I've got the canvas on here. I can't wait to use this. Okay, so next we're going to attach the handle. So I've already made the designated marks where it says for me to put them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to align the outside edge with my outside mark, like so. Align the raw edges together. And we're going to clip that right into place. And then we're going to fold it over like so. And do the same thing. So align the outer edge with the outer mark. Make sure that when you do this that you have you keep it aligned correctly and you keep your handle from not like twisting on you. I'm actually going to put 2 in so that it doesn't move on me. Then we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and we're just going to baste this handle into place so that it doesn't move around when we are doing the binding. So I'm going to go do that. I'll be right back. All right, with the handle basted in place, I went ahead and started attaching the binding to the project. So I simply just folded it out and ran it around the back of the project, starting at the middle of the bottom. And then basically for the corners, I'm simply going to take it, fold it at a 90-degree angle like so, and clip that into place. And then run it right along the edge like I've been doing, lining up the folded edge with the raw edge, right like so. And then when I get to the end here, Gonna cut it about 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to fold this over like so, just so that it seals into place, like so. And I'm going to clip it. I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I am going to sew right along the edge. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and at the end. And then when I am done, I am going to flip the other half edge over to the front, and then I'm going to top stitch all the way around. So I'm going to go do all of that, and I will be right back.